Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Tim Kelly, 15-year Navy Chief Petty Officer turned real estate investor and high performance coach. And so we'll explore with him the hidden gaps between discipline and results, why financial freedom is a platform, not a destination, and the first honest conversation every high achiever needs to have with themselves. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, my man. I've been looking forward to our conversation today.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show, Tim. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people a lot of high performers across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about why high performers stay stuck. So we'll talk in this backdrop. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Yeah. This is I can't wait. This is something I'm super passionate about. So, just a regular, middle class, simpleton from the suburbs of Chicago. I grew up right outside the city of Chicago, and I was just not really sure what the heck I wanted to do after high school. So I did what everybody thought they should do, down that path of getting a degree, getting a job, and so I went to college, dropped out real quick, realized that it wasn't my thing, wasn't my jam. Didn't take it seriously. I deep down knew that it wasn't for me, so I dropped out. Had a couple different jobs, and then God led me into the United States Navy. I kind of piqued my interest becoming a special operator and going into like the SEAL teams and stuff like that. I was like, that sounds amazing. That sounds super cool. So kind of went to the recruiter, enlisted in the Navy with like a contract to do the special teams. And kind of went through boot camp, and that special operator contract didn't work out, but I ended up joining the Navy. I became a search and rescue swimmer, and I stayed in for about 15 and a half years. But I'm going to tell you why I ended up leaving at 15 and a half years when I could have, stayed in for another 4 and got this glorified pension. Around my 10-year mark, I had just got off a deployment, and I was like, man, I'm 10 years in. I don't want to do another 10 years of this. Being away from my family, going on these deployments, going to danger zones and hazardous duty areas. I'm like, I have to figure something else out. And so that's when God led me into the real estate investing path, and I got the real estate bug, immersed myself in education and coaching and mentorship, went right into commercial investing, and I ended up partnering with other service members to buy apartment buildings and mobile home parks while I was active duty. I just did that for a few years, finished out my enlistment, and I made the decision I'm not re-enlisting. I'm not going on any more deployments. I'm going to get out. That put me at 15 and a half years. I got out, and I was just investing in commercial properties, and it was a lot more lucrative, a lot more fun. And throughout that journey, I connected with other service members, other veterans, and we built what's now the premier military real estate investing education community called Active Duty Passive Income, where we're helping other service members and their families create wealth and financial freedom. It's a massive community. And throughout that journey, I also became a certified high performance coach because I became kind of addicted to the thought of self-development, professional development, and growth. And so at this point, I reside in Tampa, Florida. And I'm just excited because now I have the opportunity to not just like continue to build wealth in real estate, but I get to help thousands and thousands of service members in our community walk this path and navigate this path. And I also help one-on-one. I help high performer CEOs, entrepreneurs reach all different levels of clarity, identity, purpose, and so they have more courage and discipline in their lives.
Absolutely, Tim. So when we talk of high performance or high performers, what is it that you are trying to say about them or to them through what you are saying, through what you are doing?
Yeah, I mean, like high performers, I qualify someone as a high performer when they've already reached some level of success. They've already reached some level in their industry, in their business, as an entrepreneur, some level of success where they're not just like in a startup, they're not grinding out, working 80 hours a week, not really making any revenue. It's people who've already achieved a level of success, but that next level is like through a glass ceiling. They feel stuck. They're driven, they're capable, they're disciplined, but a lot of times they just like overthink because they're carrying a lot, and their identity is shifting back and forth. Like, who am I? Who am I supposed to be? Is what I'm doing, and are my everyday habits and behaviors in line with my actual purpose? So instead of making that next step towards their next level, they are just staying busy. They're staying productive, but it's not actually moving the needle.
Absolutely, Tim. So you talk about that gap between discipline as well as results or success. So they are high performers. They have been continuing with their performance and everything, and suddenly they find there is this gap. Where, when, and how does this gap start coming in, and why is it that they are not able to notice it? Help us understand from that point.
Man, it's sneaky, and they're not getting stuck, obviously, because it's like they're not like they're lazy. They're carrying too much pressure. They have very high standards and expectations for themselves, and they overanalyze. They sometimes wait for certainty. They try to optimize like every move, and because they're good at performing, they've reached a certain level of success. They could look successful on the outside when like kind of internally they feel disconnected, they feel burnt out, they feel unclear, right? And a few kind of like real reasons and feel like emotions that they experience, they like confuse, like in that state, they're confusing like activity with progress. Like they're still in their brain being productive, doing the things that used to work, that used to move the needle, but it's not actually progressing them. They're also kind of, in a way, sometimes chasing perfection instead of momentum, and sometimes one of my all-time favorite books is The Gap and the Gain. And this is a perfect time to bring and explain. First of all, if you haven't read that book, you need to read The Gap and the Gain. And a lot of high performers stay stuck in the gap, where they are right now, where they think they should be, or where they compare themselves to other people. Oh, this person has accomplished this, has accomplished that. I think I should be there. They're sitting and they're assessing themselves in that gap, when realistically, the only thing that you ever compare yourself to is how much you've gained, and you should be only comparing yourself to who you were yesterday, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. So a lot of high performers, because they're strivers, they're super ambitious, they're not paying attention to how far they've come. And they're stuck in the gap instead of in the gain. So I'll kind of just leave it at that.
Absolutely, Tim. So how, as a coach, how do you diagnose that gap? How do you actually do it, on the ground? And, the real gap for already successful performers. And because, not everyone will be able to get your coaching, it's a big world. People might just listen to your expertise on this particular podcast later on, now also. So how is it that they can self evaluate and see if they have got any gaps which is holding them back?
Yeah, I love that. And so I've always like enjoyed helping people. And even when I was in the Navy and when I got out of the Navy, I was like helping and mentoring people because I just cared. When people are striving for something and they're struggling with something that I've experienced and I've figured my way how to get through it, like I have this obligation to help them, and so I've always coached people, but until I actually put some structure around it and I became a certified high performance coach, where I actually now have a framework that I use specifically where there's these certain pillars of high performance that I kind of start digging into and asking very good thought-provoking questions. And that uncovers a lot. One question that a mentor or a role model or a coach that asks you could create your gears to turn and could be completely transformational for you. And these pillars that I'm talking about are pillars that the highest performers focus on, measure, and practice, And the first one is clarity. Are you clear? And I practically, if you're listening to this, assess yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. How clear are you on who you are, what you do, how you could help people, and what you need to get to the next level? How clear are you on that, right? On a scale from 1 to 10. In terms of your energy, that's the next high performance pillar that we always dive into. This is both physical and mental energy, like just stamina. Overall, if you don't have energy, how are you supposed to kind of, especially if you have like a W-2 job, you're working very hard, how are you supposed to, wake up before work or wake up after or stay up after work to move the needle in your business so you can escape your 9 to 5, so you could work on your business full time? You have to have energy. And so assess yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. What is your level of energy every day that you have pursuing what's most important to you? You're both your mental energy and your physical energy. The next one of my favorites is courage. Okay. Assess yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, your level of courage. Okay. How courageous do you feel you are when you speak up for yourself, right? Are there any conversations that you need to be having with loved ones, with coworkers, even your spouse, family? Like, how long have you been putting off that important conversation? That takes courage. That's usually one of the things high performers lack, is their courage, because they're avoiding a difficult conversation. So assess yourself and courage. Like, how well do you speak up for yourself? And are you avoiding these conversations? Like, assess yourself. And there's a couple more high performance pillars that we kind of just like dig into, and that always allows the highest performers to like discover new ideas, what they really need to do. And then there's immediate action and commitment, where it's like, all right, before our next call, you will have that conversation. You will, take that next step. And so I got to keep it simple, and I got to have a deliverable. I got to say, all right, this is the commitment, but there's usually high performance pillars that I ask certain questions in to uncover what's really holding people back from their next level.
Absolutely, Tim. Thank you for that. Now, high performers, should they look at the success part, or how should they define as fulfillment part? Because this is one particular area that can, bring a lot of, thought into their mind at a certain point. How should they look at success, results? Should it be only in terms of tangibles for what they are doing, that particular thing, or should they also look at fulfillment, or fulfillment should be the only criteria in what they are doing?
Man, AJ, I gotta say, like, I can't place all high performers in the same bucket. I can't say that they all deep down desire the same thing. It's very unique and subjective to their why. And why do they want success? There are certainly individuals who have a deep desire to have fame, fortune, worldly possessions, go on lavish vacations, there are some people who simply just want freedom of options, but until I work with them to get what I call 7 layers deep, I don't know what's really driving them. Because there's some of the people who get the most amount of success, you know, those rags to riches stories, is because they want to never have their spouse ever work again a day in their life, or because they saw their mom working 3 jobs to provide for them, so they want to make sure their mom never has to work a day in their life and she is set up for life, or she's taken care of, you know, for the rest of her life. And some people just want to make a big impact. Like this is ideal in real estate because I work with so many people who want to partner on large commercial real estate deals, like buy apartment buildings, mobile home communities, self-storage facilities. And I get to explore people's why on a daily basis so I can help them really, truly get to the next level. And I've seen a pattern. The people who are able to sustain their success, they want to help, they want to give, they want to make a big impact. And a lot of veterans and service members in our community want to end veteran homelessness. They don't want to see their brothers and sisters who have served this country living on the street homeless because they no longer have a target. They no longer have a mission. They no longer have a brother or sisterhood. So a lot of people who end up successful and are able to sustain success have a deep desire to make a dent, like really make an impact. And that's where it's so unique to the individual. I can't put every high performer or successful person into one bucket, because what's meaningful to them, what's going to drive them, and why are they doing what they're doing, you know? And it's so hard these days to really get to know people because of social media, you know, because of, you know, just marketing, social media marketing. And there's a lot of gurus out there that are selling programs or selling coaching that don't really truly care, you know? So each individual high performer is different. You just have to get to the bottom of what drives them. And then you can figure out, all right, are you moving the needle in the right direction based on that? Is there real alignment with your mission and with your purpose, with what you're actually doing, how you're spending your time? And that's what I love uncovering for people that I work with.
Absolutely, absolutely, Tim. What is fulfillment to you? Because you have been doing several things, you know, been in the Navy, left the pension opportunity, real estate, now high performance. What is it that you seek for yourself now, Tim?
Yeah, man, I think I had a couple aha moments. You know, I had, when I left the Navy at 15 and a half years, I'm going to be a little vulnerable here. I went down a dark path because when you have a high level of freedom, AJ, with that comes a high level of responsibility. I did not have the level of responsibility to match my level of freedom, and that took me down a dark path. That led actually to a divorce, a really dark time in my life. And I learned that during the darkest seasons, we all go through seasons of darkness, of brightness, peaks and valleys, right? And I learned that during the darkest time of my life is when the brightest stars shine. The people in your life that truly matter, that show up for you, you know? And the more freedom and abundance I have, the more I'm able to show up for the people that matter, right? And as much as I love helping other people that I don't know, I don't have like a deep relationship with them, but I've helped thousands of people reach levels of success that they desire. Nothing is more important than pouring into the people that you love and you care about. And that's one of the reasons why I left the Navy initially, because I didn't want to have to leave my family and leave my kids and be floating on a ship in the middle of the Persian Gulf while my spouse was at home holding it down. Shout out to military spouses, because their job is harder even than the service members that's deployed. But I want to be able to have the level of freedom that where I could spend the most amount of time with my kids, showing up, teaching them my lessons, because I could go impact thousands or millions of people and help them reach their levels, because I've received a lot of abundance in my life through that. But there's nothing more important than your own loved ones, your family, right? And the people that you love and show up for you, being able to show up for them. And you can't really do that if you don't have some level of freedom. If you're working a 9 to 5, if you're struggling to get by, if you're not focused on your health, if you're not focused on your next level, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So I always want to continue growing. I will always want to continue helping more people, so I have more abundance, so I could pour into the people that matter most.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is so much to learn about high performance, about life, and how to, make sure that you are doing a good job with your life as well as talent. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, about you, especially about the high performance part. What's the best way for them to do so, Tim?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you just most social medias at the Timothy Kelly, so Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, and even like Facebook and TikTok and X and stuff like that. And then my website is thetimothykelly.com. And AJ, I'll just make sure if that you have a link to directly book a 30-minute phone call with me if any of this resonated. If you want me to kind of get to know you a little bit and ask you some of those questions, so you like fully understand what it will take to get to your next level. If this resonated with you, just book a call with me. Let's just hop on a 1-to-1. No need to think about it. Just book a call. We'll connect. But I'll just, AJ, make sure that you have the best link for that. And that's probably the best way to get hold of me. If not, check out my socials, check out my website and all that. And look forward to connecting.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.